Well, we have to consider when someone is called a stalwart, a treasure, it speaks to their years of work, their dedication to country, and indeed I am honored to have with me this morning a man who fits every criteria. Too many accolades, too many to mention. I'm looking at so much of your achievements in your 93 going on to your 94th year of life. Ferdinand Ferdy Ferreira, born June 14th, 1932. And you're sitting here with me to bring history, to bring some perspective, and to shed light on what I must say is an attempt, clearly, to rewrite or to reposition the history. I went to school and, you know, you sit in social studies class and you're given a particular perspective, and I'm seeing now that that is being challenged. But we'll get to that momentarily. I just want to say a sincere thanks for being here. Good morning to you, sir, and
morning.
Pleasure to have you on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, indeed.
You know, there's an old saying that you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts.
Well, it's true, it's true. And what are the facts? Because obviously, when I saw that statement over the weekend, I was taken aback, because I'm saying to myself, if that's the case, that should apply to everybody who would have been in the Federation. So that should apply to also Jamaica. Yeah. Bustamante can be the first Prime Minister there.
Yeah, let me begin by stating, as senior citizens, the media, the university, these entities has a responsibility for informing and educating the society, particularly young people. So that responsibility, even at disadvantage, I contend it must be taken seriously. And when it's one thing for Dr. Mayhew, to express an opinion, but that's taken to us, he is the PRO of the governing party. So one is tempted to ask whether what he's saying is the opinion or reflection of the thinking of the party, which is in government.
Well, you've been around the block for quite a while. From your experience, there's always a reason for any particular move in the politics. I don't think anything happens by chance. What do you think is the intention here? Is this meant to distract? Is it meant to create some kind of dialogue?
Well, I could only arrive at one conclusion. It was an attempt to further, because it's not the first time he has done it.
It was an attempt to?
It's not the first time that he has displayed that level of incorrectness, and as I said, irrevocable stupidity. The facts are there. When the Federation was dissolved in 1962, Dr. Williams was the Premier of Trinidad and Tobago, not the Prime Minister. He had to lead a delegation to Marlborough House to get approval from the Colonial Office. This is elementary history and commons. A similar situation occurred in the Malaysian Federation with Lee Kuan Yew when he separated from the Malaysia. The Prime Minister was Tunku, not Lee Kuan Yew. So when he left the Federation, he had to go and renegotiate, not being independent. Independence had to be approved by the Colonial Office. So how could he be the...
Yeah, because I was even thinking to myself...
All the information is available.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I was, of course, nowhere around in that time. I would, of course, learn the history through school and through listening to elders like yourself and listening to my parents and stuff. But Jamaica was also part of the Federation. They pulled out.
And Jamaica was the first one. Jamaica.
They pulled out, and I know they said that famous saying, 1 from 10 is 0.
Yes.
And they got independence on the 6th of August, 62. We got independence on the 31st of August. No one could ever go to Jamaica and claim that Bustamante was not the first Prime Minister and say that.
No, certainly not.
Yeah.
But none of the countries in the Federation, the Federation had a measure of independence. But none of the other countries were independent. None of them had prime ministers. They had premiers, chief ministers. So they had to go. They couldn't do it on their own. We were still colonial territories. So they had to go to Marlborough to this. So
let me ask you, Ferdy, do you think that this even warrants the kind of discussion it's getting, because the Prime Minister says it's a non-issue? Is it a non-issue? A statement like that?
It cannot be. Every document every historical document in terms one of our independence and our 7 prime ministers is on 7 prime ministers. So it cannot be a non-issue. Because if what he's saying is correct, then she would be the 8th prime minister. So all our historical documents are based on the premise that she is the 7th prime minister, which I mentioned in a document that I sent to the media, which has not yet been published, on the achievement of our 63rd independence anniversary, which, with your approval, I would like to.
Of course.
To read this morning.
Yes, you could give us an excerpt.
In the midst of our current national controversies, there is so much to celebrate after 63 years of independence. As one who lived my first 30 years, 1932-1962, under colonial rule, and the next 63 as an independent citizen, I think I am in a better position than most of our citizens to assess, evaluate, analyze, and finally determine from my own experience the difference between then and now, 1962 and 63 years later. And this is very important, what I'm going to say now. On Wednesday, 10th August 2025, the following article was published in the Newsday newspaper. European Union phases out operations in TNT. Outgoing Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary Peter Cavendish stated the European Union, gradually withdrawal from direct development funding is not as a result of fractured diplomacy or lack of interest. Instead, it reflects a shift in global economic standards and priorities. Your country, this is the outgoing ambassador to the European Union, I'm quoting, your country has progressed a lot economically. The wealth per head is quite high, and it is almost as rich as some European countries, like Bulgaria. Cavendish said, the move follows TNT 2007 classification by the World Bank as a high-income country. He continued, similarly, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, has ranked TNT near the levels of some European members, states, and aspirants. Mr. Cavendish also stated, the middle class is highly educated, which is not common in many countries. He visited the country. The country has huge standing alone character. It is a unique and fascinating country, a melting place of culture.
So let me ask you, Mr. Ferreira, where can folks get the entirety of the piece?
There?
It's not printed just yet. The piece.
No, it's not printed. I sent it to them.
Well, no problem. Well, we'll get a chance. We'll get a chance to get into that. But I want to ask you though, as we go back to Dr. Eric Williams and the experience and that intimate knowledge, working alongside him, seeing him, he remains such a mystery even to me and to many. There's not much other than what we see via the interviews and the little bit of footage, black and white, and some would have been colored towards the end. What kind of person, well, I mean, I have no idea. There's so much mystery surrounding the man. He would have been in these darkers. I've always seen him in darkers, never seen him without the darkers. I don't even know where he's buried, where's his last remains. I mean, there's so many questions about the father of the nation.
Well, I don't know that there should be any mystery about it. There's so many books. There are about 15 books that I record. Selwyn Ryan, Dr. Elton Richardson.
But I know those things dealt with policy. I'm thinking here in terms of the man himself. What kind of person?
And not only that, I have in my book, which was a bestseller, the
Portrait of a Patriot?
Yes.
Yes.
It is there. I said he was, and I identified. As a matter of fact, I had the opportunity, the privilege, the honor of having dinner with Dr. Williams every night for 7 months, from the 21st of April 1970 to the end of November. That's the Black Power. Yeah. For 7 months, every night we had dinner together. So I have a very good insight into the personality,
and the character,
and the behavior. And there is so much, it's interesting that you asked that, Jason, because there is so much misinformation that they had a plane waiting to fly him out the country. And this one, I mean, there is so much misinformation.
Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of.
He was a normal human being. He had his assets, he had his liabilities. He was not perfect. As a matter of fact, I was expelled from the PNM.
In 1980?
In 1980.
Yeah. Why you were expelled?
Yes. But the principal reason for the expulsion is that we announced the formation, Carl Hudson Phillip and myself, formed the ONR and announced the formation of a party. You can't be a member of two parties, so expulsion was automatic. But it was based on the issue of the undated letter. In 1976, 1975, Dr. Williams wrote the General Council asking the General to send out a letter requesting all interested candidates or potential to sign an undated letter. In other words, you are required to sign a letter for a job that you're not sure you're getting. And in fact, if you get it, I will put in the date. You tender in your resignation even before you get the job. So if the Prime Minister is dissatisfied with your performance, or for whatever reason, he will put in the date. And Carl Hudson Phillip, who had by then retired as a former Attorney General, took objection to it. He said, this is undemocratic. And in fact, I supported him. So we tried to get the General Council to get the right to withdraw that. Said that this was undemocratic, unconstitutional, to ask someone to sign a dismissal before they even get the job. Cannot be. There's an attempt to exercise a level of dictatorship that was unacceptable to us.
Well, I mean, you would have seen all. You would have been there from the very start of our democratic journey back in '62 to current day. What are some of the high points and low points? Any moments of major concern? Any moments of pride within the last 63 years?
Well, I'm glad that you asked that. I'll continue from where I began. As we celebrate our 63rd anniversary of independence, having lived through both periods, pre-independence and post-independence, being an active participant during the transitional period, that's the period when you move, in other words, they put in the proper context when the white man left, the former colonial masters period. When if you don't get it right, like so many of the 70-odd countries that obtained their independence after the Second World War, the tragic consequences are well known to all. We know what happened. In India, 2 prime ministers were assassinated. In Pakistan, 1. The president of Nigeria was assassinated. We know what happened in Sri Lanka. We know what happened right here in Grenada and Suriname. The tragic consequences. Fortunately, we got it right. No country in the world has ever been able to get it completely right. The 2 questions that emerge as we celebrate our 63rd anniversary of independence are as follows. 1, what did TNT look like in August 1962? And what it looks like today? 2, how do we compare ourselves with the other 70-odd countries who obtained their independence like ourselves after the Second World War? Ambassador Cavendish has given us his opinion of today's he's given us today's opinion. But he was not here in 1962. It is therefore for us as citizens of the Republic to answer these questions. They can only be correctly answered in the context of the history of our independence, 63 independence journey. Space does not permit me to tell the whole story. I merely wish to remind my fellow citizens of young people, our students, and those among us who continue to believe that we were better off pre-independence. There's that element there, that pre-independence. Those than we are today, and to identify a few, both in the question you asked, of our post-independence achievements that were not available pre-independence, and what independence brought us under our three parties.
Yeah.
Well, PNM, 1962-90, the periods of office.
Yeah.
1962-1986. NAR, 1986-1991. PNM, 1991-1995. UNC, 1995-2002. PNM, 2002-2010. UNC, 2010-2015. PNM, 2015-2025. That's really good. The successful one, this is what independence brought us. The successful preservation and maintenance of our democracy and the smooth transfer forward from government, unlike so many.
So again, while you continue, just again, this is
so
a public...
far, in spite of the racial, we have avoided any racial conflict. Two, we have successfully defended ourselves and resisted two unsuccessful attempts to overthrow our elected government without any assistance or interference from
overseas.
Foreign power. Three. Four, we have successfully negotiated the return of hundreds of thousands of acres of land from expatriate ownership and returned it to the people. I'll call them Wallerfield, Carlsonfield, Komutu, Chagaramas, Caroni Limited, Woodford Lodge Estate, Shell, Point Fonte, BP Palaseco. All of these companies were owned by expatriates with large acreage of land. And as a result of our debt, we were able to successfully negotiate with Texaco and their vast land holdings, not parallel estates, several other former private estates, and return them to the people for housing, education, industrial development, sporting facilities. Provided sugar workers with a guaranteed 40-hour week, a pension plan, tax-free, and the best terminal package in our history, inclusive of lands for housing and agriculture development. The Industrial Court and the Industrial Relations Act, they appoint Lisa's Industrial Development Estate, making TNT the industrial capital of the Caribbean, and by extension, Central Trinidad, the shopping capital of the nation.
Again, you know,
yes.
a tremendous piece there. I want to ask you before you leave, just to give a little perspective on the current geopolitical climate, especially with the news coming out of yesterday. Obviously, the U.S. striking this vessel suspected of carrying drugs. The Minister of Communications in Venezuela suggesting it's artificial intelligence, it's not real. Again, this is what we're looking at on screen here. What's your take on this latest development, and could this, if at all, well, I don't want it to spill into any kind of military action, but if it does, where will we be in the equation?
Well, let me put it as mildly as possible. Trinidad and Tobago, since its independence under Dr. Williams, has taken a position of neutrality. You know, there's an old saying, Jason, when elephants fight, the grass suffers. So our policy over the years, beginning now with our independence, our first representative to the United Nations, Sir Ellis Clark, Sir Larry Constantine to the Court of St. James, our position had been one of, as a matter of fact, in inward hunger, it is documented, Dr. Williams took a position on behalf of the government of Trinidad when he was having a conflict with the Valiant on a 30% toll tax that they had imposed on Trinidad during colonial days, which Williams resisted and fought and successfully got them to remove. He made it clear to the Venezuelans that whatever differences we have, it is documented. Trinidad soil will never be used for any attempt by any foreign power to invade Venezuela. That is documented. So that has been our policy. Unfortunately, whatever the reasons, the Prime Minister had made to me what I consider to be a highly questionable commitment in terms of offering the American government, without request, they made no request to us. She offered that if the United States, if Venezuela attacks Guyana, she will be over. With a base, to me, that is a totally unopposed and against the history of our diplomacy and foreign policy. And it's quite disturbing. This is our closest neighbor. It's not the first time Venezuela has been governed by a dictator.
Well, the reason being given is that, the drugs spilling over from Venezuela into Trinidad is causing lots of the mayhem. So they're looking at it from a law and order perspective.
Let me recoin the phrase now. Anybody who has any knowledge of international affairs can only consider such an utterance as being irrevocably stupid. 7 battleships to fight drugs. You didn't do that with the great fellow from Colombia.
Pablo Escobar?
Pablo Escobar.
Yeah.
You didn't send 7 to look for the greatest drug dealer in the world, Pablo Escobar. It's 7 battleships that you send in the Caribbean under the pretext that you're going for drug dealers. You need 7 battleships to intercept a vessel with 11 people that you assume have drugs. So this has to be nothing short of irrevocable stupidity. Anyone that conceived that, it is a clear indication of what will go along in history as the most disastrous president in the history of the United States. I make no apologies for that. On the basis of some person, a president who changes his tongue every 5 minutes, the whole situation is becoming highly, let me put it, highly questionable in terms of our complete deviation from the concept of the founding fathers in terms of a neutral position in Caribbean, and strongly supported by CARICOM. I don't know if you recall, you must have been too young, of the situation in Grenada when John Jay was right. When he refused to accept, he said this, the crisis in Grenada with Maurice Bishop and Cord.
That was in 83.
And so on. He said, this is a Caribbean, this is a CARICOM matter.
Yeah.
And he strongly, he did not support Eugenia Child's request to President Reagan for external intervention. And that's why I made the point again, that our 2 unsuccessful attempts, 1970 and 1990, the government did not seek international intervention.
Yeah.
They felt this was a Trinidad matter, a CARICOM matter, and we successfully dealt with it. Our protective service performed the duties which they are paid to perform, and which they perform with complete satisfaction.
So Ferreira, as we look to wrap things up, Fudi, in the minute that remains, I'll just give you a chance to extend.
There's a point I would like to make here before we close this.
Yeah.
There's a concept out there of people, Afro-Trinidadians, that we are the one of the. Let me just.
You have about a minute again. You can go right ahead.
Yeah. Finally, let me. Complaints by my fellow Afro-citizens of victimization and discrimination by our financial institutions. This I do not deny. However, a careful investigation and analysis will clearly indicate that Afro-Trinidadians had not done as well as the other groups, and in fact should have done better. We have not done badly. Like many others, thousands of us, these Afro-Trinidadians, thousands of us have educated our children, who today enjoy the highest and most respected position in both the government and the private sector, own small businesses, enjoy enormous financial success, like Marshall Montano, Dwayne Bravo, Chiron Politics, etc., and several others in the sporting, entertainment, and cultural world. Thousands of us have submitted substantial savings in the unit trust, the credit union, and other financial institutions. We have also enjoyed some measure of success in the catering business. Our problem today continues to be the unanswered question, why have we not done better? I have my own views on this still highly questionable and controversial topic. However, I leave it to this more serious matter to our historians and Afro scholars.
Fudi, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yes, thank you.
I want to thank you so much for coming through this morning to share some perspective.
We have some more time, so we could.
Well, I think we need to probably get a chance to touch base again. And probably we could do it on Zoom because I know you made it down here physically today. You drove down.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for being here with us
I
this
hope
morning.
with this advantage, I'll get the opportunity to express my views, controversial though they may be at times.
No, listen. I mean, you have hold on a bit for the hold on. You have reached a nice ripe age where your views and your perspective and your experience is appreciated, and we thank you for coming through this morning. Indeed, Fudi touching base, portrait of a patriot. And a man with so many accolades giving us some perspective on this Wednesday morning. We're going to get ready for the 7 a.m. news. And we come back. Your calls and so much more after 7.